You think power comes from being seen, from being heard, from making your presence known to everyone in the room. But what if I told you that everything you believe about strength is backwards? What if the very things society taught you to share are the exact weapons your enemies use to destroy you? What if transparency isn't courage but suicide in disguise? You were raised to be honest, open, vulnerable. They told you this would make you respected. Instead, it made you predictable. It made you weak. It made you a target walking around with a bullseye painted on your back, wondering why everyone else seems to move through life with such calculated precision while you stumble through it bleeding your truth to anyone who pretends to listen. The world runs on information warfare, and you've been fighting with your weapons exposed. Every boundary you announce becomes a roadmap to your breaking point. Every influence you credit becomes a blueprint others can study and exploit. Every routine you follow becomes a trap waiting to spring. Every wound you reveal becomes ammunition in someone else's arsenal. But there's another way, a darker way, the way of shadows and silence, the way Machiavelli understood when he wrote about power centuries ago, the way that turns you from prey into predator, from readable into untouchable, from victim into force of nature that moves through the world, leaving others guessing what you're truly capable of. Today, you learn 5 secrets that separate the powerful from the powerless. 5 truths that will reshape how you move through every room, every conversation, every relationship from this moment forward. Keep these buried deep, or watch them become the very tools used to dismantle everything you think you've built. Drop this in the comments if you're ready to stop being an open book that everyone else gets to rewrite. What they don't know, they can't control. The first secret that must never leave your lips. Never reveal how far you're willing to go. Right now, you're walking around broadcasting your limits to anyone who'll listen. You say things like, "I would never cut someone off completely," or "I don't believe in revenge," or "I always give people second chances." You think you're showing moral strength. What you're actually doing is handing potential enemies the exact coordinates of your weakness. Think about what happens next. They hear these declarations and their minds start calculating. If he won't cut people off, I can drain his energy slowly. If he doesn't believe in retaliation, I can disrespect him without consequences. If he always gives second chances, the first betrayal is just practice. You've turned your boundaries into their strategy guide. You've made their job of manipulating you incredibly simple. They don't have to guess where your breaking point is because you already told them exactly where it lives. But what happens when they have no idea what you're capable of? When they look at your calm exterior and wonder what storm might be brewing underneath? When your silence carries more weight than their loudest threats? They start moving differently around you, not with disrespect, but with caution, not with arrogance, but with uncertainty. Uncertainty is your most powerful weapon. When people can't predict your response, they can't prepare for it. When they can't measure your limits, they don't know how close they can get before something inside you shifts from tolerance to action. That unknown territory keeps them honest, not because they respect you, but because they fear miscalculating what you might do next. The truly dangerous ones don't threaten. They don't announce their capabilities. They don't draw lines in the sand and dare people to cross them. They simply exist with a quiet intensity that makes others think twice before testing boundaries they can't see. Let your unpredictability become their nightmare. Let your silence become the warning that echoes louder than any threat. Because in a world where most people reveal their entire playbook in casual conversation, the one who keeps his cards hidden becomes the player everyone else fears to challenge. Stop explaining what you would or wouldn't do. Stop giving disclaimers about your moral boundaries. Let your actions speak when they need to, and let your mystery do the heavy lifting everywhere else. The moment someone knows exactly how far you'll go, they know exactly how far they can push you. But when that limit remains hidden in shadow, every interaction carries the weight of unknown consequences. The second secret: never reveal who influences you. When someone asks who inspires you, who shaped your thinking, which books changed your life, they're not making casual conversation. They're conducting reconnaissance. They want to understand the architecture of your mind so they can find ways to restructure it in their favor. Once they know who you admire, they'll study those people, learn their patterns, and start feeding you versions of their wisdom that serve different purposes. If you mention a particular author influenced your business philosophy, suddenly they're quoting that same author back to you, but with subtle twists that lead you toward decisions that benefit them, not you. They'll also use your influences against you when it suits them. The moment you do something they disagree with, they'll say, "But your hero would never act like that," or "This isn't what that book taught." Now you're not just defending your decision, you're defending your consistency with someone else's philosophy. Your choices become measured against borrowed wisdom instead of your own judgment. Even worse, when they know your intellectual lineage, they start predicting your moves. They expect you to react like the people who shaped your thinking. They prepare for conversations knowing which arguments will resonate with you and which emotional triggers to pull. Your influences become their instruction manual for manipulating your responses. But what happens when your sources remain hidden? When people can't trace the roots of your thinking back to recognizable names or philosophies? They can't replicate your mental framework because they don't know what built it. They can't predict your responses because they don't know which voices whisper in your ear. They can't use your admiration for others as leverage because they don't know who holds that position in your mind. You become an original force instead of someone's intellectual offspring. Your ideas carry weight because they emerge from mystery rather than borrowed authority. When you speak, people listen not because they recognize the source, but because they can't identify where this perspective comes from. Keep your influences sacred and hidden. Learn from everyone, belong to no one, and let the world wonder what combination of wisdom created the mind they're trying to understand. When they can't name your teachers, they can't replicate your power. Your growth becomes untraceable, your evolution becomes unpredictable, and your mind becomes a fortress they can observe from the outside but never infiltrate because they don't know which keys unlock which doors. The third secret: never reveal your daily habits. Your routines are windows into your mind, and windows can be used for surveillance just as easily as light. Every habit you make visible becomes a point of vulnerability that others can exploit with surgical precision. You post about your morning run at dawn. Now they know exactly when you're mentally locked into physical activity, unavailable for important calls, and operating on autopilot. You mention always checking emails late at night. Now they know when to send messages designed to provoke, distract, or manipulate you while your judgment is compromised by fatigue. The structure you built to make yourself stronger becomes the blueprint they use to make you weaker. Every predictable element of your day becomes a trap waiting to be sprung by someone who's been studying your patterns. Think about how predators hunt. They don't chase randomly. They study movement patterns, identify routines, and strike when their prey is most vulnerable. The business world operates the same way. Competitors watch for patterns they can disrupt. Manipulators wait for moments when your guard is down. Energy vampires learn your schedule so they can demand attention when you're least able to refuse. But unpredictability is armor. When no one can trace your daily rhythm, when your availability follows no discernible pattern, when you show up unexpected and disappear without warning, you become impossible to trap. They can't prepare for you because they don't know where you'll be or what state of mind you'll be in. Randomness becomes your weapon. Sometimes you respond instantly, sometimes you take days. Sometimes you're available in the morning, sometimes late at night. Sometimes you're intensely focused, sometimes completely unreachable. This inconsistency frustrates those who want to control you and gives you tremendous power over the flow of interactions. Successful manipulation requires timing. Remove the ability to time their approach, and you remove most of their power. Let them guess when you'll be available. Let them wonder if you'll respond today or next week. Let them struggle to find the rhythm they can exploit. Your unpredictability becomes their constant problem. They waste mental energy trying to figure out patterns that don't exist. They miss opportunities because they're waiting for the right moment that never comes. They lose power because they can't synchronize their manipulation with your availability. Break the patterns. Shatter the routines that make you readable. Move like smoke through your days. Always active, but never traceable. Always progressing, but never in straight lines that others can follow and intercept. The fourth secret: never reveal what you've forgiven. Society teaches you that forgiveness is noble, that letting go makes you stronger, that mercy is a virtue worth displaying. But in the real world, forgiveness is intelligence gathered by those who want to test your limits. The moment you announce that you've let something slide, that you've forgiven a betrayal, that you've moved past someone's disrespect, you're not demonstrating strength. You're providing data about your tolerance levels. They study this information not to appreciate your mercy, but to calculate how far they can push next time. You didn't retaliate when they lied. They file that away as evidence of softness. You didn't cut them off after they betrayed you publicly. They interpret that as weakness rather than wisdom. Every act of forgiveness you make visible becomes a test case for future boundaries they plan to cross. But silence around forgiveness creates something far more powerful than visible mercy: uncertainty. When you don't reveal what you've let go, when your response to betrayal remains mysterious, when they can't tell if you've forgiven or if you're simply calculating your next move, they live in a state of perpetual unease. That uncertainty is psychological warfare at its finest. They don't know if you're waiting for the right moment to act, if you're building a case against them, or if you've truly moved on. This ambiguity keeps them cautious, not because they fear immediate retaliation, but because they fear making moves without knowing the true state of your feelings. Forgiveness should be a private transaction between you and your own peace of mind. It shouldn't be performed for an audience or announced for validation. When you keep that process hidden, you maintain all the psychological benefits of letting go while preserving the strategic advantages of keeping others guessing about your intentions. Let them wonder if you've forgiven them or if you're just biding your time. Let them lose sleep questioning whether they're safe or whether consequences are still coming. That doubt in their minds gives you control over their behavior without requiring any action on your part. The enemy who thinks he's safe makes careless moves. The person who assumes they're forgiven stops watching their behavior around you. But the one who lives in uncertainty about your true feelings stays careful, stays respectful, and stays vulnerable to whatever you might choose to do with the power they handed you through their past actions. Forgive for your own healing, but never let them know you've done it. The gap between what you've released internally and what they believe you might still be carrying is where your real power lives. The fifth and final secret: never reveal what you're still healing from. Your wounds are not just personal history. In the hands of the wrong people, they become weapons designed specifically to break you. The moment you reveal where your damage lives, you give others the exact coordinates to strike when they want to watch you crumble. You open up about abandonment issues, and suddenly people start testing how you react to being left alone. You share your struggles with trust, and someone will promise loyalty just to break it later while studying how you unravel. You mention childhood trauma, and manipulators start using similar triggers to keep you off balance when they need you compliant. This isn't paranoia. This is recognition of how power dynamics actually work. People collect information about your vulnerabilities, not necessarily to use immediately, but to store for moments when they need leverage. Your healing journey becomes their strategic advantage. But when your wounds remain invisible, when people can't see where the damage lives, they assume you're unbreakable. They move around you more carefully because they don't know which words might cut deep or which situations might trigger responses they're not prepared to handle. Healing should happen in the shadows, away from eyes that would use your progress as entertainment or your setbacks as opportunities. Your recovery is not content for others to consume. It's not a story that needs validation from people who weren't there when you were breaking. When you rebuild yourself in private, when you emerge stronger without explaining how you got there, people meet a version of you that seems to have always possessed that strength. They don't know what you overcame, so they can't trace your power back to weakness. They can't diminish your achievements by pointing to your struggles. Your scars should be invisible armor, not visible targets. Let the world meet you after you've done the work, not while you're still in the middle of it. Return to the battlefield not as someone who's healing, but as someone who's already healed and integrated that healing into deadly competence. The transformation you undergo in darkness is sacred. Protect it from those who would cheapen it with premature exposure or twist it for their own purposes. What you survive privately becomes strength they can observe but never fully understand or replicate. Here's what all 5 secrets create when you guard them properly. You become unreadable. Not because you're mysterious for the sake of mystery, but because you understand that in a world driven by information warfare, the person with the most protected inner world holds the most power. While everyone else broadcasts their limits, influences, routines, forgiveness, and healing journeys for validation, you move through life like smoke. Present, active, but impossible to grasp fully. People can see your effects but never quite pin down your methods. They can feel your power but can't trace its source. This isn't about becoming cold or disconnected, it's about becoming strategic. It's about recognizing that every piece of information you reveal either serves your interests or serves someone else's, and choosing consciously what stays hidden and what gets shared. The world runs on exposure now. Everyone's performing their lives, explaining their choices, documenting their journeys. But while they're turning themselves into open books that anyone can read and rewrite, you're becoming a closed system that operates by different rules entirely. You don't chase influence by revealing yourself. You become influential by remaining partially hidden. You don't gain respect by explaining your boundaries. You command respect by keeping others guessing where those boundaries actually are. You don't build relationships through total transparency. You build powerful relationships by maintaining enough mystery to keep others invested in understanding you. This is the path Machiavelli understood centuries ago. Power doesn't come from being known. It comes from being impossible to fully know. It doesn't come from being predictable. It comes from being strategically unpredictable. It doesn't come from showing all your cards. It comes from playing a game where others never quite know what's in your hand. You're not becoming a manipulator. You're becoming someone who can't be manipulated. You're not hiding because you're weak. You're protecting your strength because you understand its value. You're not being dishonest. You're being selective about what truths serve your purposes and what truths serve everyone else's. In a world where information is currency and exposure is exploitation, the person who protects their inner world while others broadcast theirs holds every advantage. They move through life collecting data while revealing none. They make decisions from positions of strength while others operate from positions of vulnerability. If this challenged everything you thought you knew about power, if it made you question every boundary you've announced and every secret you've shared, then you're starting to understand how the game actually works. The rules they taught you were designed to keep you readable, manageable, and weak. But you don't have to play by those rules anymore. Like this video if these truths hit different than anything you've heard before. Subscribe for more insights they don't want you to have. Share this with someone who needs to stop bleeding their truth to people who don't deserve it. And tell me in the comments which of these 5 secrets you've been giving away and how you plan to take that power back. Remember, what they don't know, they can't control. And what you keep hidden becomes the foundation of everything you're about to build.